So this is chapter 5, lesson 2, the road to war. Okay, so we have all these acts being put on the colonists that makes them pay various taxes, and they're getting mad. So now we're on this road to war. The tensions are increasing. Okay, and it says the Townshend Acts were repealed in March 1770, but colonists were still angry. Unrest had spread through the colonies due to Great Britain's repeated attempts to collect taxes. Okay, so we have a little illustration at the bottom. And it says British ships in Boston Harbor tried to control the protests and growing unrest in the colonies. Okay, so tensions boil over. In early 1770, people in Boston were angry at Great Britain. British warships had occupied Boston Harbor for more than a year, trying to maintain peace. On March 5th, the same day that a member of Parliament proposed repealing the Townshend Acts, colonial anger boiled over in Boston. A crowd began yelling insults and bothering a British guard near the custom house. The custom house was where the taxes were collected. A British captain ordered soldiers to protect the guard and restore order. Someone hit a British soldier with a stick. The soldier shot into the crowd. Other British soldiers began to shoot into the crowd. 5 colonists died due to the skirmish, including Crispus Attucks. Attucks was an African-American sailor who had escaped slavery. The incident is called the Boston Massacre. A massacre is the killing of many people. The event sent shockwaves through the colonies. John Adams of Massachusetts was tasked with defending the British officers in court. Adams did not approve of the British being in Boston, but believed that they deserved a fair trial. None of the soldiers was found guilty of murder. Now, as you can imagine, that probably made the colonists even more mad. They hit a guy with a stick. Okay, yes, that wasn't right, but the colonists, didn't kill anybody or mortally wound anybody. Okay, the British soldiers did. So our first reading checkpoint, it says, identifying the cause of the Boston Massacre by underlining the appropriate text. Explain why Boston was at the center of the action. Okay, so what is the cause of the Boston Massacre? Okay, well, the cause is going to be up here, that they were angry at Great Britain. Okay, this is going to lead to the cause. Okay, and we could also include this part right here. Someone hit a British soldier with a stick and the soldier shot into the crowd, because that's going to really lead into it. Charlie would like to participate in social studies today. Right, Charlie? All right, so we underline that. What else, was making the colonists mad? Well, they had all these intimidating warships. Okay, British warships had occupied Boston Harbor for more than a year, trying to maintain the peace. Okay, right in our first paragraph again. This kind of, unsettles the colonists when there's a bunch of warships in your bay. Okay, explain why Boston was at the center of the action. Okay, because the British warships occupied where? The Boston Harbor. So British. Okay, so we're going to say British warships occupied Boston Harbor. Now, that's really the only reason why Boston happened to be at the center of the action. If it had been different, if they had been docked in a different city, that city probably would have been at the center of the action. Okay. Committees of Correspondence. As tensions with Britain increased, colonists in Massachusetts felt the need to form a system of communication. Samuel Adams, cousin of John Adams, helped to create a committee of correspondence in his colony so that even people in rural areas and other colonies had access to the information. This committee or group of people had been active in urging colonies to send delegates to the Stamp Act Congress. Now they were active in managing the tea crisis. Other colonies also formed committees. When colonists learned of the Boston Massacre, the importance of these committees became apparent. Members of the committees wrote letters and pamphlets about British policies and colonial protests. They spread the documents along the colonies. A man named Paul Revere was one of the express riders who carried the letters and pamphlets throughout the colonies. After the Boston Massacre, many colonists looked to religion to justify their opposition to British rule. They felt it was their Christian and moral duty to fight against a cruel tyrant. Many ministers preached this idea to the colonists. They felt it was morally correct to support political and military resistance to Britain. So, here's a map of the express riders right here. So you can see that the route went all the way down. Charleston is in Virginia. Okay, went all the way down to all the way up. Okay, past Boston. And the average number of days to travel between the different cities took them about 2 days. Remember, they're traveling by horse. Okay, they don't have cars and speed wagons and whatever else. They have a horse who gets tired, who needs to eat, who needs to rest. Okay, so this is along, our east coast here. So it says, look at the map. Okay, describe and measure the distance between Williamsburg and Baltimore. About how many miles did a rider cover in 4 days? Now, what you have to do with this. So we need to locate Williamsburg. Okay. And we need to locate Baltimore. Okay, so they're both ideally right there. Now, we need how many miles was that? So there's a little trick here that you should be able to do. Okay, there is a scale. Okay, we talked about this in our map skills way at the beginning of the year. There's a scale here. Okay, and if I line up a piece of paper with the edge, I'm going to make sure I have that edge, and line it up with the 0. So right here to here is about 100 miles. So what we do is we take our paper, let's see if I can fit it in here. So 100 miles would be to here, right just before the 4. And then we have about another 100 miles till we get to Baltimore. So do a little bit of math and social studies here. Okay, 100 plus 100 is 200. Okay, so how many miles did the rider cover? Now we're going to say that the riders rode along the Atlantic coast, and that was about, okay, we're going to estimate because we're not exact on our measurement, about 200, and the MI, that's going to stand for miles, or you can put MI. Okay, so riders along, they rode along the Atlantic coast for about 200 miles. Okay. So I'm going to stop here for part 1 of this lesson because the next section, the Boston Tea Party, actually has quite a bit for us to do. Okay, and I don't want to make this video too long for you. All right, so make sure you have the 2 checkpoints completed. Check your answers if you already completed them ahead of time. And then I will see you back here for the second part.